Hey there, welcome to Peace Rocks and Garden. Just a quick review of the Stimac medium wave and short wave. So the medium wave is a 310 nanometer. The short wave is a 254 nanometer UV light. Full disclaimer, I'm a beginner both in the rock hounding and mineralogy, and definitely a beginner when it comes to the world of UV lights. So take everything with a grain of salt with that in mind. A couple other things to maybe quickly note before I get into the meat and bones of the lights themselves. As I understand it, the mid-wave and short-wave lights in the flashlight form factor is fairly new to market. They used to come in these big unwieldy boxes that had fans and kind of like I don't know, what the tube lights. Big batteries, they were heavy and they were very expensive. They weren't the most durable. A lot of challenges came with them. So technology is a wonderful thing, and they've been able to come up with these flashlight form factors for these two lights, which is opened up a whole new world for people in my price range and expertise. So with that also, there's only a few products I think available really that are worthwhile looking at this point. Stimac happens to be one of them. The other one that I was looking at was not available. Actually, Stimac wasn't either, but they got back to me in short order saying, hey, we got some now. Would you like it? So communication wise and customer service wise, I would have to give them a thumbs up. So with that, let's get into it. Full metal, no plastic, feels solid. I haven't field tested it, so I don't know how it'll take an impact, but just from the overall feel of it, and once the battery's in, and I suspect it's going to hold up quite nicely. I don't find it uncomfortably heavy, and I don't find it uncomfortably light. I'm not the most graceful dude, so I like having a bit of girth to things so that I can hang on to it. They do have fins here. From what I've read, both the mid-wave and the short-wave do generate quite a bit of heat, so that's good. I'm suspecting that's going to be for heat dissipation, so that you get a little more longevity out of your lights, because they're not necessarily cheap. I wouldn't say they're super expensive, but you definitely want to get some life out of them. They do have, both of them have a filtered light, so that's the filter on the end. And both lights come with color-coded end caps, which I find quite nice. Now I'm using the blue for the mid-wave, green for the short-wave. I don't know if it's shipped with blue or not. I can't remember which one shipped with which, but that's what I'm using it for. They do react to the UV light, so if I'm using a long wave or short wave and I wanted to find my mid-wave, I can just flash the end cap. We're good to go. So that's kind of cool. Batteries, they're, I think, your average size, kind of like a C size battery. They didn't come charged, so I had to charge them, and it took about 3 hours, so keep that in mind. I haven't field tested them yet to see what the longevity is from full charge to dead, so I can't report on that just yet. But I have been using the lights indoors here for the last few weeks, and I would say maybe total runtime I've had so far is about 2 hours, and they're still going strong, so for what that's worth. Both lights, I would say, have a relatively narrow focused beam, meaning they don't, like, if I'm looking from a distance, let's say I'm a few feet away, it's still a very narrow beam. So if I've got a whole bunch of rocks out in front of me, I'm only going to be able to see one or two rocks with the beam, which is good and bad in a sense. My long wave light that I have tends to be a little more broadcast, so when I'm panning over a bunch of rocks that I just collected, it makes the UV reactive lights stick out quicker, rather than me having to sweep back and forth with the more focused beam. but that's pretty minor in my books. And I do think it'll have its advantages when I'm in field. So be aware of that. The charger is pretty simple. It's got the 2 LED lights. Now, each light came with its own charger, so I have 2 of these. And, of course, they came with their own batteries. But red to charge, green, good to go. Again, 3 hours to charge. So that's basically the construction of them in my books. They're pretty solid. They're metal. They've got these fins for heat dissipation. The batteries are pretty standard. Longevity, can't report on just yet. Price point. Well, I don't have a lot of experience with UV lights. I would say that they're moderately expensive for the hobbyist. They're $100 each US, and they do come out of the US. I'm here in Canada, so shipping is a factor. And something I forgot about is customs. So when you factor in the cost of the light itself, 100 US, the shipping and customs, and then you convert that to Canadian dollars, it came out to about 200 Canadian per unit. Not the cheapest, but not terrible either, especially for the enjoyment I've been getting out of them and what they've opened up in the world of mineralogy and fluorescence for me. Fluorescence, I think. So, price point, I would say mid to mid-high for investments. But overall, there isn't really any other options aside from going for the really expensive stuff. And being relatively new to market, I don't think there's a whole lot of options. So I'll follow this video up, this review up, with some examples of what they look like in use. Hope you found this helpful. Oh, I should mention, don't go away, the real basic UV protective lenses. Using the long wave, I didn't really have an issue. But using both the midwave and the shortwave, when I'm looking at the rocks, even though the light is away from me, the reflectiveness, I'm not sure, but I was getting headaches and my eyes were slightly sore after use. So my friend, who happens to be an optometrist, said, well, let's get you these. So I grabbed them, and they do make a difference using these 2 lights. So highly recommend that. And then also, you want to be careful. This is ultraviolet, and they are fairly powerful, especially the shortwave. You don't want to be exposing it on your skin for any kind of duration. You're going to give yourself a burn. So if you're going to be handling things and shining them in your hands, I would recommend you wearing some form of protection over your skin. So take that for what it is, and I'll follow this up, like I said, with a couple of clips of what they are in use.